What is up, hooligans? Happy freedom. Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Hooligans, where we try to make the news suck a little less. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you hit that like button if you got one. If you're over on a platform with a like button, hit that thing. More likes, more hooligans. I want to start off by saying that this is the first time in 2 years that we have live streamed on D Live. This is our first day back on D Live. Hopefully everything goes well. We are live right now. We're not buffering or anything. We actually got 5 people watching us already, which is pretty awesome. Anyways, we're going to read through the schedule really quick, and then we're going to flip through all the chats, make sure everything is running smoothly, and we will go ahead and get her started. We are waiting on the press briefing. KJP is still not on stage. Technically, she's 13 minutes late. We're just kind of waiting for that to happen whenever she decides to come to work today. And then we will have a video titled Texas Congressman Carjacked at Gunpoint in D.C. Oh yeah, D.C. is a safe place. You would think where all the politicians are would be old folks home safe. Nothing would be going on there. Nope, crime is crazy, as always. Then we're moving on to a video titled Trump's Attorney Sets the Record Straight on Misleading Claim. Just kind of talking about what happened yesterday. Then we have a video titled This Case Should Be Dismissed. It is not a case. President Trump speaking after yesterday's hearing and stuff. Then we have a video titled 160 Arrested in Ohio Human Trafficking Bust. And they're saying it's teachers and CPS workers and all kinds of people that you would not think are human trafficking, but they are also the people that would go most undetected. So that's really interesting. Then we have a video titled Self-Driving Trucks in Testing Phase to Hit Road in 2024. Then we have a video titled Matt Gaetz Triggers Vote to Oust House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Okay, I'm going to flip through the chats as quickly as I can because press briefing started. But first, I want you to get the Orange Eagle t-shirt or the Screaming Goat t-shirt, tank tops, hoodies, zip-up hoodies, coffee mugs. We got all that good stuff. I will post the links in the chat as you're watching the press briefing. Really quick while I'm checking everything, what color do you think KJP will have today? I'm thinking red. Communist red. That's what I'm going with. Oh, Peter's in the house. America, fuck yeah. Got Peter with us today. And we got a new sign language person. New victim. Fresh meat. What's up, Annette? Happy freedom. Appreciate you being here on the website. Happy freedom, all of you hooligans over here on Rumble. Make sure you guys rack those likes up. Get us on the front page. What's up, Snooks? Happy freedom. It's just buffering on Odyssey. I knew I forgot something yesterday. Maybe during the press briefing, I'll write Odyssey Tech and see if they can come check out my live and see why it's having issues over there on the Odyssey platform. What's up, everyone over on Kick? What's up, DeRosa? Happy freedom. You think pink? You think she's gonna have pink on today? She might. I don't know. I think she had pink on yesterday. That doesn't really mean anything. What's up, hooligans over on Twitch? Happy freedom. What's up, Make Yourself? You think she's gonna have green on today? Oh, what is it? What is it? Salmon and white? Did anybody call that?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Prostitute.
Today, the Biden-Harris administration announced that manufacturers of all 10 drugs selected for negotiation have decided to participate in the Inflation Reduction Act's Medicare drug price negotiation program. Another major step in President Biden's fight to lower health care costs for seniors and families. Last year alone, 9 million seniors spent $3.4 billion in out-of-pocket costs on these 10 drugs to treat conditions like heart failure, diabetes, arthritis, blood clots, Crohn's disease, and more. President Biden and congressional Democrats finally beat Big Pharma and allowed Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices for the first time in our nation's history, despite every single Republican in Congress voting against the Inflation Reduction Act. Today's announcement builds on the work of this administration to lower healthcare costs, including capping the cost of insulin to $35 for seniors, making vaccines free for Medicare and Medicaid enrollees, and saving 15 million Americans $800 per year on health insurance premiums. President Biden will continue fighting to lower healthcare costs for American families, no matter how many challenges Republicans and Big Pharma put in our way. Finally, as you all know, we're joined here by the Admiral John Kirby, who is here to discuss the President's calls this morning with some of our partners and allies to coordinate on how we are going to continue to support Ukraine and also take some of your foreign policy questions. I should say that our conversation back in the back, I should call you out. I'm going to time you out.
Tell us more. She probably will.
I don't have a real pretty laugh, but she definitely has an ugly laugh.
All right.
Captain Hot Dog Fingers, welcome to the live.
Right? That's what anything you could tell us on that front. On that front, you know, all the gossip.
Prostitute.
Biden think it's real?
The relationship?
She was smoking a blunt on the way to work today. She's over there, got a giggling going on.
Confirm or deny those reports.
Will you take the question?
I will happily take the question back to our analysts. So look, I think you all are tracking, but in case you're not, earlier this morning, the President did convene a call with allies and partners to coordinate our ongoing support for the people of Ukraine as they defend their freedom and independence against Russia's brutal invasion. The President reaffirmed the strong commitment of the United States to supporting Ukraine as it defends itself for as long as it takes, as did every other leader on the call. The leaders discussed efforts to continue providing Ukraine with the ammunition and the weapon systems that it needs to defend its territory, and to continue strengthening Ukrainian air defenses as they prepare for more attacks on critical infrastructure now, certainly, but also certainly in the winter months ahead. In that vein, they also talked about joint efforts to repair and harden Ukraine's energy infrastructure throughout the winter. Finally, the leaders spent some time discussing ways that they can align and broaden donor efforts to support Ukraine's economic recovery, as well as to work together with the global community to address the energy, economic, and food security challenges that are being caused by Russia's war well outside of the European continent. Joining President Biden on the call was Prime Minister Trudeau of Canada, President von der Leyen of the European Commission, President Michel of the European Council, Chancellor Scholz of Germany, Prime Minister Maloney of Italy, Prime Minister Kishida of Japan, NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg, President Duda of Poland, President Ioannis of Romania, and Prime Minister Sunak of the United Kingdom, as well as the Foreign Minister of France, Foreign Minister Colonna. Now, this call, of course, comes on the heels of the continuing resolution passed by Congress over the weekend, a bill that
It does what on the heels?
to support Ukraine. As President Biden made clear, we cannot under any circumstances allow America's support for Ukraine to be interrupted. Time is not our friend. We have enough funding authorities to meet Ukraine's battlefield needs for a bit longer. But we need Congress to act to ensure that there is no disruption in our support. This is particularly important as the Defense Department seeks to replenish its stocks from the drawdown authority that it's been giving now, almost 50 drawdown packages. As Ukrainians wage a tough counteroffensive, as their children continue to get ripped from the bosom of their families, and as winter fast approaches, it is imperative that we help them take advantage of every single day. A lapse in support for even a short period of time could make all the difference on the battlefield. Just as critically, such a lapse in support will make Putin believe that he can wait us out, and that he can continue the conflict until we and our allies and our partners fold. A strong signal of support now and into next year will make it clear to Putin that he's wrong about that too, just like his assumptions have been wrong throughout this entire conflict. We know that the vast majority of members in Congress support additional help for Ukraine, and we know and appreciate their statements to that effect, including those of Speaker McCarthy. And as evidenced in today's call, we know that the world is watching. U.S. leadership has galvanized international support and has been critical to rallying the world. American leadership remains key to ensuring that support for Ukraine continues. So, the President looks forward to working with Congress to ensure that we make good on our commitment. And he has every expectation that Speaker McCarthy will keep his public commitment to secure the passage of the support needed to help Ukraine at this critical moment. I'll close with this. Supporting Ukraine strengthens our national security. It's the right thing to do, not just for the Ukrainian people, but for the American people as well. Countering Putin's ability to wage war on a neighboring nation may actually prevent a larger conflict in which American troops might be needed. And it sends a strong signal to other would-be aggressors who may be considering military action and invasions of their neighbor's territory that that sort of action is unacceptable and they will pay the consequences. They will be held accountable by the United States and by the international community. With that, take some questions.
John, you said that the President is confident that Speaker McCarthy will keep his commitments. Are you concerned that Speaker McCarthy's ability or inability to keep his job may impact that?
Well, that's clearly going to be up for his conference in the House and the House of Representatives to decide. That's not something that the President's going to get involved in or necessarily be overtly concerned about right now. I mean, he has made public commitments that he'll support Ukraine. I would also add, regardless of what happens in the House of Representatives, that all the House leadership is supportive of continuing to help Ukraine. And the vast majority of House members on the Republican side are in support of continuing to help Ukraine. There's a small number of very vocal, a small minority of vocal members who are pushing back on that, but they don't represent their party, they don't represent their leadership.
Did the President address the chaos in the House of Representatives on his call with foreign leaders today?
The President certainly talked to the leaders about the vote over the weekend and expressed to them exactly what I expressed to you, that he's confident that we're going to continue to have bipartisan and bicameral support up on Capitol Hill and that the United States will continue to meet our commitments.
Thanks. Kirby, you said that you were looking for a strong signal of support now and into next year. Obviously, the administration's request on the table right now is through the end of the fiscal year. Does that suggest that your strategy has now shifted to want one vote on Ukraine for the entire fiscal year? And do you have an updated package for, how much money you want, since we're now kind of into that?
Yeah, the short answer to both those questions is no. We still stand by the supplemental request that we submitted to Congress, and we're still pushing, obviously, to have that funding granted.
And off that topic just a little bit, we reported that there were Taiwanese firms that are helping China develop chip factories in China. Is the U.S. investigating possible export control violations there? And more broadly, if you can't answer that, can you gauge concern that our domestic chips program is potentially pushing our partner Taiwan towards Beijing?
So I've seen the press reports. I can't confirm the accuracy of those reports one way or another. Obviously, no surprise to us that Huawei will be looking to find ways to continue illicit production of semiconductors, and particularly working throughout the PRC to do that. I can't confirm the specific reports about Taiwan. And then on export controls, again, no announcements or anything to make today, but we're confident in the export controls that we have in place that they will be helpful in terms of protecting the supply chain for semiconductors here in the United States, and that look, we're not, it's not static. We're going to constantly look at the regime, and if it needs to be changed or adjusted, we'll absolutely do that in the future. The President has been firm, but you've seen it in the CHIPS Act, that he wants the supply chain to start here, not end here, and it's got to be more resilient, and we're going to stay committed to being flexible in the tools we have to do that.
Yeah. Thanks. I wanted to ask about, you all have been saying that there is bipartisan support in Congress, which there certainly is for the Ukraine funding. But if you look at broader public opinion support, it has diminished from the point of when this war started. Some polls showing that a majority of Americans do not support continued funding for Ukraine. And so I am wondering what your message is to that growing segment of the public, and if you have concerns about that diminishing support over time amongst the American public.
Look, I can't speak to individual polls, and certainly the American people should speak for themselves. We believe that Americans understand what's at stake here. we believe that Americans understand that it's not, although it is first and foremost about Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and their sovereignty, it is bigger than that. The American people understand that there's more at stake here than just the borders of Ukraine. It's the vast security environment on the European continent. And it's the very idea of independence, which is a founding ideal in this country. If there's one thing that all Americans, no matter who you vote for, can get behind, it's the idea of independence. That's what Ukraine's fighting for. Their right to be an independent state. It's what we fought for in 1776. And most Americans will also know and remember that we didn't win and secure our independence without foreign help from abroad. That's all Ukraine's asking for. They're just asking for foreign help and assistance to do this fighting. And they're the ones doing this fighting. So we're going to continue to make the case. We're going to continue to make it clear to Congress and to the American people what we're doing and why we're doing it. But there is so much more at stake here than just Ukraine. And again, we think that the American people understand that.
Thank you very much, Karine. Mr. Kirby, I'm getting a chance after 4 months, so I hope I can ask just 2 questions.
That's up to Karine.
Right? I mean, after that statement, maybe just get one question.
Ooh, so should I combine them, or what should I do?
I think you're wasting our time, sir. Can you please
So, Mr.
ask a
Kirby, I
question?
had asked you about Pakistan providing weapons to Ukraine, and you said to ask Pakistani official.
And what did they tell you?
And the U.S. news media outlet published a story that Pakistan was supplying critical weapons in Ukraine war and was getting huge funds from the U.S. I'm just wondering, there's so much emphasis on Ukraine war, but you're not highlighting one of your allies just right next door who's helping in a war. And just combined with that, there was a huge protest, one of the biggest one against President Biden, just right outside here by the Pakistani community. The State Department was denying that Imran Khan was not removed under the U.S. But again, the U.S. media presented documents that he was removed after President Biden's disliking for him or something. So why is this whole confusion going on since last 1 year?
Well, first of all, there's more than 50 nations providing support to Ukraine, and typically we allow those nations to speak to what they're doing. Some countries give lethal capabilities, some don't, some give financial assistance, some don't. Some don't want a lot of public attention on the support they're giving to Ukraine. So we respect that. So I'll let Pakistan speak for what it's doing for Ukraine. On your question about Imran Khan, you're suggesting that there's some sort of linkage here to his removal and these protests and some sort of American action. This is a domestic issue for the Pakistani people and the Pakistani government to speak to and to deal with.
Go ahead, Catherine. We're going to move on. Go ahead, Catherine.
John, do you think the Pentagon will have to begin conserving what it sends to Ukraine, given the budgetary uncertainty?
I think in coming weeks, you'll see a relatively consistent and continuity of support to Ukraine through drawdown authority. The Pentagon still has several $1 billion available to it in unexpired but yet appropriated presidential drawdown authority. So look, we've been providing security assistance to Ukraine about every 2 weeks, and I think you're going to continue to see that be the case for coming weeks. But absent additional funding by Congress, appropriated funding, such as the supplemental we asked for, eventually, you run into a hard stop there. And we want to make sure that, as I said in my opening statement, that there's no lapse, that we're able to continue this consistent process of providing them support, particularly as we get into the fall and this counteroffensive continues. There's about 6 to 8 more weeks of decent weather here, of good fighting weather, and we want to make sure that the Ukrainians can succeed.
And do you have any comment on reports that India has told Canada to remove a number of diplomats from the country?
I'll let these two countries speak to their bilateral relations.
Go ahead. Algeria.
Thank you, Carrie.
Algeria in the back.
Thank you so much, Karine. Thank you, John. A couple of days ago, you said that you're seeing buildup of U.S. troops, Serbian troops on the borders with Kosovo. Is it still the same? And why is UK sending troops to Kosovo?
Why is the UK?
Is the U.S. going to be part of the NATO troops in Kosovo?
So on your first question, since we stated publicly that we had seen Serbian forces on the border, we have also seen them start to move those forces away, and that's a good thing. That will help de-escalate the tensions. It won't eliminate them, but it'll help de-escalate them. There are, as you know, a small number of U.S. forces that are part of the KFOR, the Kosovo Force peacekeeping mission that NATO keeps there. A small number. I don't expect that number is going to change or there'll be any additional U.S. troops provided as a result of that. It's as I understand it, the UK is now in a cycle of leadership over KFOR. So really, you have to speak to them for a force allocation, but I don't anticipate any change in U.S. force posture.
Admiral Kirby, thank you. Is the White House on board with tying additional aid to Ukraine with border security, as some Republican lawmakers have suggested, as a way to resolve this?
We believe both are important, Peter. That's why in the supplemental
If
request,
it's tied in one, you would be satisfied if that's the vehicle that it happens?
we don't believe they should be tied, or one dependent on the other. But both are important. Both can be and both are important, and that's why in our supplemental request, in addition to some $12 to $13 billion for defense-related support, there's also $4 billion in there for border security enhancements.
Can I ask a quick follow-up on that? You say that you're confident that this is going to happen, that the Congress will provide the sufficient funds so that there is no lapse. My first thought is, how long can we afford for there to be a lapse if there is one? Is a day? I get
0 days.
So does that mean Ukraine falls if 1 day goes by without U.S. funds? Is Ukraine
I wouldn't
out?
go so far as to say Ukraine falls, Peter, but we
obviously
don't
don't
want to
want
see
there.
any lapse. Any lapse. There shouldn't be any lapse.
Now, what are the leaders with whom the president spoke to today in that conference call? Obviously, you said there's confidence that the Congress will pass this. He's responding to the concerns that other leaders have about whether the U.S. will pass these funds. What is the basis for that confidence, and what do the foreign leaders say about their sense of confidence that the U.S. is going to do the right thing?
Well, again, I won't want to speak for all these foreign leaders, but I can tell you that
the president, yeah.
well,
Right.
the president asked for the call. It wasn't that he was getting pressured by these foreign leaders for a conversation. He wanted to have the conversation. But let me go back. I won't speak for them, but I can tell you that that on the call, none of the foreign leaders expressed concerns about continued U.S. support. They understand what's going on up on Capitol Hill. They understand that this is a small minority of extreme Republicans that are holding this up, and they understand that the bulk of Republican leadership, House and the Senate, all support Ukraine. So I think there's a general sense that this will obviously move forward and it will happen. But it was a topic of conversation, but the impression that they all gave the president was that they understood what's going on and they fully expect this support will continue.
Admiral, can I get just two timeline clarifications? What is the John Kirby definition of a bit in terms of how long the U.S. can continue to provide support to Ukraine under the current funding levels? Is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Is it a few months? Like, how long is a bit?
I think given what we have left and given the pace at which we've been providing support, you're talking perhaps a couple of months or so, roughly. Now, it depends, Michael, the reason I'm being squishy on this is because it depends on what's going on the battlefield, how big the packages are, and what capabilities.
It's being squishy on it. That's I don't think I've ever heard that.
I need a little bit of reading.
I'm trying to think, how many times have I been squishy in my life? I don't know.
A couple of months or so is roughly about right. Okay, the other thing that's important to admit, I don't mean to talk too much here, but it's not.
Oh, you're way past that, buddy.
Presidential drawdown authority is not a check. It's not a checking account. It's how much authority they have to go to the inventory, to the shelves, and pull stuff off. And depending, each package costs different because the capabilities and the tools you're pulling off the shelf cost the Pentagon a different amount of money. But what also has to be factored into your question about what is a bit is the replenishment authority.
Why is he sifting around the podium so much? Like he's putting on a play, like a marionette.
A significant number of what they have authority to provide. And so in addition to the needs of the battlefield and the pace at which the drawdown is going, you also have to factor in, when we talk about how long is a bit, in how much authority the Pentagon has left to replenish its shelves.
And just the other timeline question, the president, you all have repeatedly said, and it sounds like he said again at the meeting today, that the U.S. is in this for as long as it takes, right? So as the president goes back to voters to face re-election, as a president who has in the past criticized the length of some of the wars that we've been engaged in Afghanistan and Iraq, is there any responsibility for the president to be specific about, with the voters, about how long he thinks the United States should be willing to be involved in this? Should he be willing to say 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Like, how long, does he commit the United States to being in this system, in this situation of what is costing tens and tens of billions of dollars on a regular basis?
For as long as it takes means for as long as it takes, and the president has been very, very honest about that. Every other leader on the call also, in their own way, emphasized their commitment, again, for as long as it takes. Now, look, I mean, everybody, we'd all like this war to end tomorrow. It could if Mr. Putin would do the right thing. Certainly the Ukrainians want it to end. Nobody wants to see this go on any longer. But it is their war. I understand that we are the leading contributor of support, but the Ukrainians are the ones fighting this war. We don't have American troops on the ground. So it's not a fair comparison to make with Iraq or Afghanistan, where you had American boots on the ground. This is Ukraine's war. They're fighting it. We are helping them fight it. We're giving them the foreign assistance that we ourselves have benefited from in our own history. And again, we're going to work as hard as we can with might and main to make it possible for Ukraine to end this war as soon as they can. But it has to be done in terms that President Zelensky's comfortable with, the Ukrainian people can accept, and that ends up with a whole, free, prosperous Ukraine with international recognized borders.
Is forever war a fair term to apply to this?
I don't think so.
Go ahead, Nancy.
Thanks. John, you said that the president expressed confidence to these world leaders that the funding will be there. How can the president be confident in that when we might not have a Speaker of the House by the end of the day today? The House could be plunged into chaos. How can he have any confidence?
Well, it goes back to my answer. It goes back to my answer to Jeff. Regardless of what happens to the Speaker himself, every leader of every relevant national security committee in the House has committed to continue to supporting Ukraine. Of course, there's strong support on the Senate side, on both sides of the aisle, but the same is true in the House. The leadership and the vast majority of Republicans in Congress, in the House of Representatives, support continuing to help Ukraine.
But we have no idea who the next speaker will be, or even when there will be another speaker. What if the speaker is one of these 117 Republicans who voted just last week not to increase funding for Ukraine?
I can't possibly speculate or get into hypotheticals about what's going to happen to the speakership in the House. I want to be clear about that. But again, there's enough support from Republicans in the House, not just members, although that's included, but leaders, that the president remains confident that we'll continue to get the support we need.
Thanks, Curry. Jake.
No, Lally.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Last week, Jake had 2 meetings with 2 South Asian leaders, one with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, other with Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. On India, did the issue of Canada was discussed in the meeting? Was the issue of Canada discussed in the meeting? Are you comfortable with India's explanation of things in the relationship with Canada? And do you think the U.S. has a role to play in India-Canada relationship, how to calm the situation down?
The issue was discussed. We'll certainly leave it to those 2 countries to talk about their bilateral relationship. We've been clear. These allegations are serious. They need to be fully investigated. And, of course, as we've said before, we urge India to participate actively in that investigation.
And on Bangladesh, how do you see the relationship between the U.S. and Bangladesh now? Last month, I think President Biden also had a full-aside meeting with Sheikh Hasina in New Delhi. Was the issue of elections and Rohingya refugees discussed?
They did talk about the importance of free and fair elections. They also talked about the importance of improving our bilateral relationship across a range of issues, including climate change.
Thank you. So we've heard testimony from wounded Ukrainian soldiers who suggest that Ukrainian forces are outgunned, they're taking heavy losses, and they have no way of cracking heavy Russian defenses even at this current level of U.S. aid. So if U.S. support is significantly reduced, can Ukraine still defend itself? And is there a real risk here that Russia can retake its initiative in the war?
Well, I mean, to be blunt, the answer to your first question is no, and the answer to your second question is yes. I mean, it is very important that Ukraine continue to get the support it needs on the battlefield. I can't speak for battlefield conditions in any one area, and how much ammunition they have, but we know that the counteroffensive has not gone as far or as fast as even the Ukrainians want it to. It's still a violent fight on two major lines of axes, one in the Donbass area and one down south of Zaporizhia. And they're still fighting it out every single day. And it's why I said in my opening statement, time is not our friend. We've got 6 to 8 more weeks of good weather here before things really make it hard for both sides, quite frankly, to fight. We want to make sure that
We don't care.
as I said earlier to Jeff.
Someone throw the shoe.
Go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Kareem. John, you said earlier in response to a question that there are 50 countries that are assisting Ukraine in their fight against Russia. Why can't Ukraine make do with just that support? Why is it necessary for the U.S. to also be a part of this military, economic, and humanitarian aid?
Well, there's a lot there. First of all, there's incredible convening power by the United States. And it's hard to see that there would be that level of international support so widespread. And it's well beyond Europe, man. We're talking about countries in the Indo-Pacific region that are providing lethal capabilities to Ukraine without U.S. leadership, without us convening.
Isn't it weird that the whole world is contributing to this country and they can't win it? Doesn't that sound weird? Russia could just hold off the whole world. That just sounds kind of weird.
Continue to have the most powerful military.
Just keep dumping our money on them. Sure, that'll fix things.
In the world. There's no other nation that can produce the kinds of arms and equipment and systems that the United States can. Without United States support, it would be very, very difficult for, because many of these other nations are donating and contributing U.S. purchased or U.S. contributed equipment. So without our support, it's not in.
Sound like Porky Pig there for a second.
Support would be harder for Ukraine to achieve. There's just, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
You're not sorry enough, buddy.
The fighting right now in the counteroffensive and the expenditure rate of munitions means that there has to be a sufficient production capability to back it up. And no other nation has that like the United States. Now, we know we have to continue to accelerate our own production capability, but no other nation can do that but the United States. So it's really important that we stay in this fight with Ukraine and that we continue to lead the world as we have under President Biden's leadership in providing their support.
And just to follow up, if there is not passage of a new aid package by Congress, does Ukraine risk essentially depleting its munitions, depleting its military equipment?
It would depend on whether there is a lapse and for how long it is. And it would also depend on what's going on the battlefield. I mean, some days they expend more than others. I mean, it's war, it's combat. Every day is different in every location, so it's hard to answer that question accurately.
On the upcoming drawdowns, this summer Jake Sullivan was describing cluster munitions as a bridge in supplies. Is the U.S. expecting to send more cluster munitions in these upcoming drawdown packages?
I'm not going to get ahead of future packages. We don't typically foretell what's going to be in there. These cluster munitions have been a significant enabler of Ukrainian efforts to blow through Russian defenses, and again, we'll take a look at it with each and every package, but I can't forecast it.
And since these cluster munitions have been being used for the past couple of months, is the U.S. aware of any harm from the U.S. provided cluster munitions to civilians or?
I don't know that they've not been used in the last couple of months, and I'm not aware of any indications that we've seen that there's been civilian harm as a result of them. In fact, and I don't want to speak for DOD too much, but the reports that we've been getting from our Pentagon colleagues is that the Ukrainians are using the cluster munitions in exactly the appropriate way, going behind Russian lines to hit at command and control and other logistics and sustainment or large formations of Russian troops, which is exactly what those munitions were designed for. We've seen no indications that they've been used inappropriately.
Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you. I have a question about the Arctic and another about Afghanistan. Starting with the Arctic, is the U.S. concerned about a surge of Russian crude oil shipments to Chinese ports through the Northern Sea route, which is something we've seen in recent weeks? And are you concerned about overall increased cooperation between Beijing and Moscow in the Arctic sphere?
Largely, then, the cooperation we've seen between those two countries in the Arctic has been economic and scientific. That's been mainly the scope of their cooperation. There's been some military exercises in the high north, but really they've been mostly focused on economic and science. And look, nothing's changed about the fact that we want to see a free and open, prosperous Arctic region that all nations that border the Arctic can benefit from. Nobody's looking for conflict up there. We'll watch this as closely as we can, but again, nothing that's going to change our posture or our policy with respect to seeking opportunities for everyone to benefit from the Arctic.
He's not even saying he sounds like he's throwing up. He's in between all of his words.
It has been effective in managing global supply and demand and limiting Putin's ability to profiteer off oil. I'm not saying he hasn't gotten any profits. Of course he has, but it has limited his ability to make exorbitant profits so that he can fund his war in Ukraine. We urge every country, and that includes the PRC, to abide by the price cap.
On Afghanistan, really quickly, Representative McCall is criticizing the White House for what he says is attempting to normalize relations with the Taliban, and in doing so, he says that that's hurtful and injurious. What is your reaction to this?
I haven't seen his comments, so it's hard for me to be specific, and I haven't seen them, but it's hard to, it's just hard to look at what we're doing and say that we're normalizing anything with the Taliban. We've not recognized them as a governing power in Afghanistan. They want that. They want the legitimacy. Then they need to meet their commitments. I mean, how can you effectively govern? How can you effectively have a useful economy when basically half your workforce, all women, are prohibited from being a part of that process? So we're going to keep holding them accountable for their commitments. Now, look, does that mean we don't have any conversations, that we're not allowed to have any conversations with the Taliban? Of course not. We're still working to try to get our allies and partners in Afghanistan out. That takes conversation. It takes dialogue. But it's important to the United States to keep meeting our word to the people that helped us for 20 years. And
You've had enough time, Kirby. Go sit down somewhere. They're just talking about other countries to distract us that our country sucks right now and we're not doing very well, and they're not going to do anything about it. So we'll just talk about it over here.
Not seeing the chairman's comments, but hard to see how it would be irresponsible for us not to continue to work on counterterrorism efforts.
Go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, Kareem.
I think, as a matter of fact, I'd say we'd owe the American people a significant apology if we somehow, because we have issues with
You do. The whole house.
we just turned a blind eye to counterterrorism threats that might still persist in Afghanistan.
Go ahead, Phil.
First, when you and I spoke earlier this year, you noted that the administration had not seen any military or financial assistance falling prey to any kind of corruption in Ukraine. Is that still the case? And then second, Semaphore is reporting that the Chief of Staff for the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations
There's Simon in the background on the right.
was allegedly part of an Iranian influence campaign and had access to top secret compartmental information. Does the NSC have an assessment of that? Was national security compromised? Has the president been briefed?
No, I think we've seen the press reporting, but I'd refer you to DOD on that one completely. And then on your first question, still no indication that there's been any kind of widespread corruption or inappropriate use of U.S. capabilities. As a matter of fact, I don't know who asked me before about expenditure rates, but I mean, oftentimes the stuff that's getting to Ukraine, it's going hand to mouth. I mean, matter of days before some stuff gets there, and then a matter of days more before it's being used on the battlefield. Not every system, of course, but the Ukrainians are in a very active fight. They're using the stuff that's being provided to them.
Senator Angus King told me earlier this year that he communicated to the Zelensky administration that any type of corruption or graft could really screw this up. Has the administration communicated to the Ukrainians just how important this good government is to keep the...
100%. At various levels, including the leader level.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Also in Ukraine, do you think that the change of governments in Europe will affect the support ultimately to Ukraine? And I have Slovakia in mind.
It's hard to say. I mean, every nation has to speak for their own domestic political situation, just like President Biden had to speak this weekend about this one here. All I can tell you is on the call today, it was very clear to the president that these leaders all unanimously continue to want to support Ukraine with security assistance and economic assistance and are grateful for American leadership.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You said that regardless of what happens in the House of Representatives, that you're confident that there remains support among a vast majority of Republicans to continue supporting Ukraine, but I'm wondering what conversations the administration is having to arrive at that confidence.
That confidence in that statement comes from the conversations that we have had at various levels inside the administration with House Republicans.
But it's up to the Speaker of the House of Representatives to decide what to put on the floor for a vote, and you're confident that regardless of who's Speaker, that the support of the National Security Committees would be enough?
You're talking about the Speaker in the past tense already. We're not going to do that, and I'm not going to hypothesize about what the speakership looks like this afternoon or tomorrow. All I can tell you is that we continue to have conversations with House Republicans at various levels, including the leadership level, and there's widespread support, a majority of support for helping Ukraine. That's what we're basing our confidence on.
How much more difficult do you expect each successive discussion over each new package of aid for Ukraine to become? And have you communicated to allies that there will at some point reach a point where there is just simply not support to pass another package?
This gets to that whole blank check argument. There's been no blank check. Every single assistance package that's gone to Ukraine, whether it's drawdown or contracting funds, the USAI funds, every single one, there's consultations with members of Congress and all the relevant leadership on what we're putting in the package, why it's there, when it's going to get there, and there's transparency throughout the whole process. So do I anticipate any changes that have to be had with consultations in Congress? No, because we've been doing it since day one.
Just a couple more. Go ahead.
On the Haiti multilateral mission, has the $200 million that the U.S. pledged already been paid for? And if so, how? And then do you have any specifics
Been
on
paid for?
Yes.
You mean
like,
been
what's the mechanism to
been
pay for?
provided?
Yes. Well, is there a mechanism already in place to pay for it, or are you going to have to ask Congress for that funding?
Yeah, I'd refer you to state and DOD. State volunteered $100 million, and so did DOD and some enabling support. But you really should go to those agencies for how they're going to account for that.
Do you have any logistics that are being provided by, any specifics on the logistics being provided by the Pentagon? And will the U.S. send any personnel on the ground to Haiti?
So the U.S. military will provide some enabling support. I suspect that, again, I refer you to my colleagues over there, but I suspect it'll be mostly in the realm of logistics and sustainment, maybe some transportation and that kind of thing. And there are no plans right now to put American troops inside the support mission.
Good, Ariel.
Thank you so much. We understand that the French minister raised the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh during the call this morning, and she advocated for strong international support for Armenia. So what's the administration take on this?
Well, we continue to watch this situation very, very closely. Obviously, still very, very tense. We're mindful that the vast majority, I think almost all, ethnic Armenians now have left. And there's a significant humanitarian assistance issue, which is why the USAID Administrator Samantha Power was just there, actually, just a few days ago. We have put a DART team on the ground. We have contributed, I think it's $11 million in humanitarian assistance just right now. So we're very focused on the humanitarian situation and doing what we can to alleviate the suffering, but also again, encouraging Azerbaijan to meet its commitments, its publicly stated commitments here, and reinforce our support for the ethnic Armenians who are still there.
All right, two more. Owen?
Good afternoon, Admiral. I want to ask you about Tuberville. The continued Tuberville hold on military promotion to the Pentagon.
Yeah.
He says, quote, "As long as the Pentagon keeps the unlawful elective abortion policy in place, my holds will remain," end quote. That said, will the Pentagon rescind that policy to move those nominations through?
I don't speak for the Pentagon anymore. I'm here now, so I'd refer you certainly to my Pentagon colleagues. That said,
that sounded so weak. I'm here now, wherever we are right now, on the stage, holding this staged event.
The Hyde Amendment.
It doesn't. They've done a legal scrub at this at DOD. It's just wrong. While I won't speak for the Pentagon, I'm certainly just not going to let a lie and falsehood live on. It's not a violation of the law. It is a legal policy. All that they're doing is providing some travel ability for female members of the military or their families they're stationed in a place where the laws are restricted, they can go get the reproductive care that they deserve, that they have every right to expect from the United States military. So I'm sorry, Senator Tuberville's just wrong. The policy's not unlawful. Now, if he wants to take that up in Congress and pass new legislation, well, certainly that's the writ of Congress. But nothing that the Department of Defense or Secretary Austin is doing is unlawful. Nothing.
If the national security is truly at risk, as the administration says, then isn't keeping that abortion policy in place, in effect, superseding national security?
How? I'm not sure I understand. Where your
You want to
question's
get the nominations through, right? You take back the policy.
Oh, so
figure that
so
out.
the suggestion is that we should just turn our backs. No, I get it. I didn't say it was yours. But the suggestion is we should just turn our backs on 1 in 5 of every person in the United States military, let alone their family members, just so we can get these officers confirmed. That's the suggestion that I think you're elucidating. And that just would be an egregious violation of the covenant that we make, the military makes, with the people that sign up and volunteer. Remember this, they're volunteers. There's not conscription, there's no draft. People volunteer for this. And when they volunteer for that duty, they have...
I tell you what, I really don't regret missing the last 2 press briefings that we missed. I was like, oh, we'll show the press briefing today. Everybody will be so excited. Oh my God. It's driving me nuts.
...of necessary leadership in the field and at...
And he's shifting all over the damn screen. He needs to lay off the White House Coke.
...% of the force from necessary health care. That both is a violation of national security.
How does it all end? How does it all wrap up?
I can't possibly predict that, but I could tell you how I'd like it to end. I'd like,
He's super triggered.
certainly for everybody in the administration, for Mr. Tuberville to lift his ridiculous hold.
James, you have the last question.
Thank you very much, Kurt.
I think he said ridiculous hold. I thought he said hole, and then I had questions.
Elucidating, I think, justifies my earlier description of your loquacity. 2 questions on the subject at hand. Obviously, President Putin has a vested interest in
Simon's back there squeezing the knee on that girl next to him.
Voting to deprive Ukraine of additional support and assistance. Do you discern any efforts by the Kremlin to exploit, aggravate, or otherwise shape the discord that we're seeing in our political system right now?
Boy, I am actually really glad that you asked that, James. Bear with me. The short answer to your question is, do we see any tangible, demonstrable efforts by Putin to capitalize on this? I can't say that we do. I've seen no indication that he's done something or is working inside the propaganda machine of his to exploit this. It wouldn't be unlike him to do that, but the answer to your question is I haven't seen any proof of that. That said, and this is the important point that I think your question raises, is that by denying support for Ukraine, by being willing to just walk away from helping them defend themselves, you're handing Mr. Putin a win, a victory. Not only a propaganda win, because his whole narrative has been this is the West versus Russia, it's NATO versus Russia, we didn't start this war, they forced us into it, all of it a lie. And if we just walk away from Ukraine, we basically...
It's all a lie.
We basically say to him, yeah, you know what, you're right, Putin, you were the wronged, you were the victim here. And we hand him that kind of an advantage. It is, it's egregious, and it absolutely plays right in to his false narrative of how this war started.
The other question is this. You, Jake Sullivan, President Biden, Ms. Jean-Pierre, all those who speak for this administration on this subject matter have, over the last several weeks, continued without deviation to project confidence that this renewed funding is going to come from this Congress. And you have issued those projections of confidence as the discernible support for Ukraine's funding has eroded almost day by day. And we're now in a position where not even a stopgap measure would include that funding. So on that call with the allies today and in government-to-government interactions with the allies, don't you risk sullying the reputation of the United States and of these individual leaders, including the president, for providing frank and candid advice and counsel when you're projecting confidence as this sort of funding ship is sinking steadily.
So I'd push back on your notion that there's a discernible erosion. There hasn't been. I've been answering questions up here now for almost an hour, telling you about we're confident in the conversations we're having with leadership in the House that support for Ukraine will continue. That the vast majority of Republicans in the House support this. Not to mention Republicans in the Senate and, of course, all Democrats. So there's no discernible erosion. We have a small number of very vocal, extreme Republicans in the House that are pushing back on this, but they don't represent their caucus and they don't represent their leadership. And what would erode confidence in the United States would be for us to do Putin's bidding.
Why is he off to the side? The microphones are in the middle of the podium. It's like it's his first day.
Hawks on national security, and they believe in a strong military, and they want to make sure that America can meet its national security interests. If you believe that, you ought to be signing up for support for Ukraine, because you can tie a direct line to our national security interests and the ability of Ukraine to defeat Putin.
He sure is pissed about asking about checks to the blue and yellow country.
Doesn't materialize.
I won't go into more detail than what I expressed in my opening statement. There was a good chunk of the conversation on what happened on Capitol Hill and the need for continued support for Ukraine, the president's confidence in that support. It was echoed by a resounding unanimity among those members on the call that they appreciate what America has done and continues to do, how important it is for the United States to lead and support Ukraine, and their confidence in their countries that they'll be able to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
They were about to touch tips.
Okay.
Prostitute.
Will, go for it.
So I know you've been asked this before, but should Democrats help McCarthy retain the speakership? And I'm curious, is this sustainable? Is the chaos that we're seeing, if there is a change, sustainable in the long term?
The president spoke to this on Sunday. He got the question about the speakership. He said, I don't have a vote in this. I'm just paraphrasing what the president said. And he also said that it is up to the leadership. It is up to House Democrats. It is up to leadership to decide how they're going to move forward on this process. We're just not going to get involved. We're not going to tip the scale here, our thumb on the scale. Look, and it's not.
Blue team loves talking about cheating.
Leadership changes in the last 2 years. We have not commented. We have allowed Congress to do their role in this, to move forward with their process. So this isn't anything new. Now, as it relates,
She's going to get baptized in hellfire after this press briefing. That's why she's got that outfit on.
right, there is chaos there. A small majority of their conference is indeed causing chaos. We just have to go back to Saturday and what we saw, what they almost marched us to, which is shutting down the government. You know, it is not beneficial to the American people. It is not helpful to the American people to have to see that going on. But we're not going to weigh in on the leadership. That's not something that we have done in the last 2 years that we've been here.
Can you talk about the long-term effect, the long-term potential effect of continued chaos?
I mean, look, as I said, we saw it very clearly on Saturday, what that chaos could have led us to. A shutdown of the government because of what these extreme House Republicans wanted to do, which is push forward policies that were harmful to Americans across the country, right? That's what we saw. You know, we kept on saying for weeks on end, it is the job of Congress to keep the government open. It is their basic responsibility, and they were able to do that on Saturday. But we shouldn't have never have gotten there, and we got there because of the chaos that we continue to see in House Republicans, that extreme group of House Republicans.
Thank you. This is a president who served in Congress for a long time, who deeply believes in working across the aisle. But if Speaker McCarthy is ousted because he was working with Democrats, is there any chance of bipartisanship on Capitol Hill moving forward? And if so, why does the president believe that?
There's always chance for bipartisanship. This is a president that has shown that. He passed the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, right? He led that. He helped push that forward. He signed that. There's the Chips and Science Act. There's the PACT Act. There's more than 400 pieces of bipartisan legislation that he signed into law. So certainly this is a president that believes in that. There's his unity agenda that he believes there's a way to work together with Congress on pushing really important key policies that's important to the American people. So this is a president, of course he believes in bipartisanship. Of course he does. But, you know, Congress has to fix their own problem, their own leadership issue, right? Specifically, the Speaker and his caucus and his conference. That is for them to fix. That is for them to deal with. And so, you know, again, it is their chaos. It is something that is not what the American people want to see. They were very clear about this. They want to continue to see us work in a bipartisan way. And of course, the president wants to continue to do that.
But given the chaos that you just talked about, looking forward, does the president realistically think that he can accomplish anything with Congress in the coming year?
As you know, this is a president that is optimistic. He says this all the time. He is an optimistic president. So of course, he's always going to find ways to do that, to work together. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, just a couple of months ago, that he came together with Congress and put forth a bipartisan piece of legislation to deal with the budget, right? A budget agreement that was done in a bipartisan way. So that was not too long ago. So does he believe we can continue to do that? Yes. Is there chaos in the House Republicans? Absolutely. That is something that they have to deal with. That is something that they need to figure out how they are going to fix that. And that is something I believe that the American people want to continue to see that bipartisanship. So the president is optimistic as we move forward.
Does the Speaker's support for an impeachment proceeding against President Biden affect the president's and Democrats' instinct not to help him with a lifeline now?
So I can't speak for Democrats, right? That is something that Democrats in the House, that's something that they have to figure out how they're going to move forward with the leadership there. I'm not going to speak for them, not going to speak on how they feel about the Speaker. Certainly they can speak for themselves. As it relates to the impeachment, we've been very clear. We're going to focus on the business of the American people. Look, if Republicans, that's what they want to do, that's what they want to waste their time doing, is going after a president who they themselves, their own witnesses have said, and we saw this hearing just last week, that there is no evidence, but still they want to move forward with an impeachment. Look, the president's going to continue to do, for example, what we announced today, these 10 drugs that are now going to be part of negotiating with Medicare so that we can lower cost for Americans, so that we can actually beat Big Pharma, which is what the president has been able to do because of the Inflation Reduction Act. That's what the president's going to do. He's going to continue to figure out how we're going to lower costs for the American people. That's Bidenomics. That's what's important. Building up, growing the middle class, and that's what the president's going to focus on.
The president's son Hunter pleaded not guilty to a gun charge in court today. Does the White House have a comment on that? Has the president been in touch with his son about it?
So here's what I'll say about that, and I've said this many times. You've heard it from the president. The president loves his son. He's going to continue to support him as he rebuilds his life. Not going to speak to any private conversations that this president has with any member of his family. That is private. And just to remind you all, as you all know, you guys reported on this, this is an independent Department of Justice investigation. It has been, and which has been led by one of the prosecutors from the last administration. And so we're just not going to comment on the investigation specifically. Okay, Justin.
First, just to follow on Jeff, could you maybe explain, I think a lot of people have a question of why the White House wouldn't sort of exploit this opportunity to take a leadership role in this situation, especially when there's policy goals, and Ukraine being the most obvious, that you want to accomplish in the House. Why not offer a lifeline to Speaker McCarthy of certain things? Is it because the relationship's been spoiled by impeachment or by other things? Is it because you don't fundamentally trust him to be able to
None of those things. None of those things, Justin. It's just the basic fact that we have, as we've moved here through the last 2 years, that we just don't get involved when it comes to leadership, right? That is something, and we have been consistent about that, right? We have been consistent about that in the last 2 years. So we're going to be consistent about this too. We're not going to get involved when it comes to who either the Senate or the House is going to choose to lead them. That has been our consistent play for the last 2 years.
And then I just wanted to loop back on yesterday. I think there was some confusion over president's remarks the day before, and when he referenced a deal. Do you have any more clarity about what the president was referring to in that situation?
I mean, look, what we were really referring to is that the speaker's McCarthy's public comments. Really.
So there's no, just to be clear, there's no behind-the-scenes deal, or you were just saying, the president was just saying, we've seen the speaker say that he supports Ukraine aid, we've seen Republicans say they support Ukraine aid, so we think there's an agreement even though we haven't had a private discussion.
Look, I'm not going to go into depth. What I'm going to let the president's words stand, and I'm not going to elaborate on it. What I will say is that what we are always going to show and point to, as the Admiral did just moments ago as he was standing by this lectern, is that the Speaker McCarthy has been very clear about this, that he wants to make sure that Ukraine continues to get the weapons support, and I'm paraphrasing here, that they need, right? That they need on the battlefield. He has said this multiple times. He said this on Sunday. He continues to say this, and there is overwhelming majority of support in Congress to continue that funding for Ukraine. That is where we are. That is what the president wants to see. And I speak for the president on this, right? Making sure that we want to see that bipartisan support. And that's the agreement. That is the agreement that the speaker has made publicly, not just to, I mean, really to the Ukrainian people, right? That commitment that he has made to the Ukrainian people, that's what we want to see. And that's what the president is going to continue to really be clear about. And he said this on Sunday as well. Okay.
Thanks, Green. When is the last time that the president and the House Speaker spoke, and how would you describe their relationship?
I just don't have any private conversations to read out. What I can say is, and he has said this to me, the president, that he is in, he has a
blink, 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 blink.
Congress, whether it's the House or the Senate. I just don't have any private conversations.
She's praying to get through this.
How would you describe?
I mean, look, the president has been president for now 2.5 years. He was a vice president for 8 years, as you all know. He was a senator for 34 years.
And he's been a pedophile for 80 years.
With Republicans and Democrats throughout his career, right? It is not unusual. It is something that the president certainly appreciates and certainly leans into the relationships that he has had. I'm just not going to characterize that relationship. You guys have seen him with the speaker multiple times meet, especially during the budget negotiations a couple months ago. I'm just not going to characterize it from here.
One unrelated question, and that is that it appears that culinary workers in Nevada are preparing to potentially go on strike. I want to get a sense of what the White House's position is on that. Would the president stand with those striking workers? Would he potentially go there? Just want to get a sense of what you all
I don't have anything on his schedule, but I can say what the president has said and what I have said on behalf of the president when it comes to workers and union members being allowed to strike. He supports that, right? He believes that they have the right to get that fair pay, to get the fair benefits, and to fight for that, right? And so that is what he believes. He believes that they should have that so that they can indeed be able to support their families, be able to support themselves. And Las Vegas, as you know, has a long history, long union history of workers of union workers that have helped build the city. And so, look, the president is always going to support union workers. He's always going to support working people. That is not new. He has done that over the course of the last 2 years. And certainly he also believes in collective bargaining. He believes that both sides should be able to come to the table in good faith and work through those issues and really be able to negotiate fair pay and fair benefits for workers.
Thanks a lot, Karine. You spoke about how President Biden has had this long career in public service, has many relationships with members on both sides of the aisle. What are his interactions that he's had with Congressman Steve Scalise of Louisiana?
I don't have anything to read out, any private conversations to read out, but obviously, again, the president, as you just stated in your question, has had long history of having relationships with the other side of the aisle, right, which he believes is incredibly important to move forward important policies and legislations for the American people, as you've seen him do in the last 2 years. I just don't have any. I don't have any specific conversations to lay out. Go ahead, Catherine.
Does the White House have any comment on the carjacking of Representative Cuellar? Has the president reached out to him? And more broadly, does it say anything about safety and crime in the district?
So what we saw happen, the reporting that we saw happen to the congressman obviously was unacceptable. The president did have an opportunity to speak with the congressman today, and we will always continue to speak out against any sort of violence. And we've been consistent here in this administration. We are certainly grateful and relieved that the congressman was unharmed, and we are thankful to the law enforcement to have reacted so quickly. And so, look, this is the president, unlike Republicans, has actually put forth billions of dollars, has taken action to make sure that there are billions of dollars in his budget every year. And through the American Rescue Plan, let's not forget, there were billions of dollars in his American Rescue Plan so that local communities and state and federal police as well, law enforcement, were able to make sure that they had the funding so that they can hire more law enforcement. And that was incredibly important to the president so that they can make sure that their communities were safe. This is something that the president has done, and Republicans have not helped. And I know you have. I know you're going to follow up on that. What's your question?
Well, the first follow-up would be, how are you going to blame Republicans for this? Isn't D.C. run by a bunch of Democrats?
I'm going to speak to what the president has done, right? The president has been very, very straightforward about what he has done to make sure that communities are safe. American Rescue Plan, not one Republican in Congress voted for it. Not one. There were billions of dollars in that plan, in that act, to make sure communities across the country got funding so that they can indeed hire more police officers so that they can keep their communities safe. Republicans had nothing to do with that. They were not involved in that. They decided not to vote on the American Rescue Plan. That's just a fact.
So if President Biden's policies are helping bring crime down, would he be comfortable with somebody borrowing his Corvette and parking it on the street overnight in Southeast D.C.?
I'm not going to get into hypotheticals. I'm just going to get into the facts about what this president has done in this presidency. One thing that somebody was asking me about bipartisanship, he was able, as it relates to guns, he was able to come together, right? We saw Democrats and Republicans come together and have the first piece of anti-gun violence prevention legislation in 30 years. And that's something that this president was able to do.
If a member of Congress is not safe on the streets of the nation's capital, who is?
Look, we're grateful and relieved that the congressman is unharmed. We understand what communities are going through across the country, not just in D.C. That's why the president took action very early on in his administration to get the American Rescue Plan done without the help of Republicans. That's why every time he puts forward his budget, he makes sure there are billions of dollars to deal with crime. That's just a fact. All you got to look is what the president has been able to do this past 2 years. There's always going to be more work to be done, but the fact is the president has taken action. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Greg.
Prostitute.
Oh my goodness, that took forever. That was like the longest press briefing of my life. Gotta cleanse the palate here. There we go. There we go. I got 3. You got 1. Okay. I got 1. It's these goofy buttons on my Stream Deck here. Either way, nothing important was said. We're gonna move forward to this next video. Texas Congressman carjacked at gunpoint in D.C. Hear the details about what all happened here. Just a moment. I'm gonna read through the chat really quick. I want to remind you guys, look through the description of the live. No matter what platform you're on, you will have access to all kinds of links and whatnot. I ask that you guys give me some feedback if you get some extra few seconds. It's really simple. I put a bunch of forms together so you guys can contribute to the progress of what we do here. And I want to remind everybody we are live for the first time in 2 years on D Live. They're trying to work with me and give me a special deal and whatnot. So if you guys watch on D Live, you can go check us out. We are live right now. Right now. Right meow. Checking on this McCarthy thing because I think they're voting right now. And we have a video talking about it, but it's not going to matter if they're actually voting right now. We'll see. I'll monitor this, but we're going to start on this first video if you guys couldn't hear what the title was. Once again, Texas Congressman carjacked at gunpoint in D.C.
Democrat Congressman Henry Cuellar getting carjacked at gunpoint yesterday about a mile from Capitol Hill, and the suspects are still on the loose. Alexandria Hoff has the very latest. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Carly. And lawmakers are acting with urgency on this. They had a meeting about this last week. Dozens of them live in the area, that immediate area where Congressman Cuellar was robbed of his vehicle, phone, and other items last night. So this is on the mind of just about everybody here in D.C. It happened in a popular neighborhood about a mile south of the Capitol building. Police are looking for 3 males, stating D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department is investigating an armed carjacking that happened around 9:30 p.m. in D.C.'s Navy Yard neighborhood. The victim has been identified as a member of Congress. So the USCP has investigators working with MPD on this case. Injuries were not reported. Detectives are working to track down the suspects. Now, police were able to locate Congressman Cuellar's vehicle a short time later. The Texas Democrats' chief of staff wrote, as Congressman Cuellar was parking his car this evening, 3 armed assailants approached the congressman and stole his vehicle. Luckily, he was not harmed and is working with local law enforcement. Thank you to the Metro PD and Capitol Police for their swift action and for recovering the congressman's vehicle. Now, year to date, 750 carjackings have occurred in the district. In 75% of those cases, a gun was involved. And this is the second House Democrat attack near the Capitol this year. In February, Congresswoman Angie Craig was assaulted in the elevator of her apartment building. Carly?
Wow, 750 carjackings. That's several carjackings every single day. Thank God Congressman Cuellar is safe, because this could have ended very differently. Alexandria, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm
750 carjackings just this year. Only in D.C. Like I said at the beginning of the live, you would think that D.C. would be safe. Safer than an old folks' home. It's where the Capitol is. It's where all the politicians are. You'd think it'd be safe. But it's not. And I don't know if that's just because all the politicians live in Alexandria or wherever their little spot is. What's interesting is one of my websites, because I run multiple websites, one of them tells me every single time someone lands on the website where they live and what their IP address is. And you would be surprised how many residents of Alexandria go and watch my website, and particularly check out my About page that has all kinds of details about me specifically. I've always wondered about that. 3 years and it still happens. I don't know. I think they monitor us as much as as we monitor them. We'll see. Just read through the chat really quick. I'm sure there's worse things that happen in D.C. They just don't talk about it unless it happens to a congressman. Matt, you just got the Rumble notification? It must be running a little late. Must be running late. Just reading through the chat. Mike, gun-free zones work. Yeah, exactly. We were just talking about that the other day. You can't have guns or ammo in D.C., but the congressman got held at gunpoint. Not assault rifle point, by the way, but gunpoint. and then had to come up out of them pockets and then get his car stolen. I don't know. Seems like those laws are doing real great things. Congressman following the law unarmed, which is silly, and then got his car taken from him on top of whatever was in his pockets. See, me, they'd have been like, bad guy, put my face on the news. Jeff Mack almost got an attempted car robbery or whatever, held at gunpoint, shot 20 rounds into the face of the victim. What was first the perpetrator, but now the victim. Jeff Mack is totally fine, but he is arrested for murder charges for defending himself in D.C. while using a firearm. Like, see, that's why I can't go to D.C. I just can't do that. I'd be alive, but I'd be in prison, and I'd be the bad guy. I'd be the bad guy. We'll leave it to the congressmen to be victims of the world, I suppose. I'll just go ahead and let that be that. Wouldn't be me. Wouldn't be me. Those 3 people would be dead as shit, and their moms would be crying, and their buddies would have their face on their t-shirt. That's why I can't go there. Can't do that. Can't do it. Zero. Make pews great again. I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a victim. I wouldn't want no part of it. I swear, that's from my mom beating me when I was little. Like, my mom used to abuse me when I was a kid. I'm like, literally was abused as a kid. And when you're a kid and you're taking real punches in the face to the point where you can't go to school the next day from black eyes and stuff like that, you're too small to defend yourself as a child from beatings from an adult. There's nothing you can do. You can try and, I can list all the things I tried to do to get away from those ass whoopings I got. If my mom could lift it, she'd hit me with it. And now that I'm an adult and I'm bigger than the average male in my area, I'll be damned if you are going to victimize me or anyone near me in any kind of way. If you're not willing to fight to the death, don't come fight with me. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a victim. And I don't want bad things to happen to anybody. But you come and try and take my Subaru off me and see what happens. See what happens. See how that goes. I'm just saying. Wouldn't be me. Let's see. So we're going to move forward to this next video titled Trump's Attorney Sets the Record Straight on Misleading Claim. These next 2 videos, this video and the next video, are about Trump going to court in New York City, which I assume is going to be ending pretty soon because the majority of their case got dismissed because of statute of limitations, which I think almost everything that he's being charged with across the board of all the courthouses and stuff, a lot of that stuff is going to be dismissed because of statute of limitations. And they should have looked at that before they even did the indictments, before they charged anything, before they summoned anyone to court, before they told the judge to get out of bed and throw his little oversized t-shirt on and all that stuff. They should have looked at that, but they don't want to because it's a smear campaign. It's not about justice.
Former President Trump headed back into a New York City courtroom today after what he is calling a successful first day. Quote, good day at trial today as the judge will be honoring the appellate court's unanimous decision on the statute of limitations. This reduces the case by approximately 80%. See you in court on Tuesday morning.
Donald Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, joins us on set now. Alina, good morning to you. Back in court today. Yes. But first, let's talk about this decision by the judge yesterday. The former president left in a very good mood, saying that 80% of the case is now essentially dismissed. Is that true? And tell us the impact of this. This all has to do with statute of limitations.
That's right. So remember, originally we had a decision that came down from the appellate division in June, which dismissed Ivanka Trump. And in that same decision, they also addressed the fact that there's statute of limitations and there's limitations on years that they can go back. Well, that affects the value of the case that they're bringing against them, which, by the way, the case should be entirely dismissed. That's obviously our position. This judge did not acknowledge it until yesterday when he said, you just spent the entire day wasting my time effectively. 2011 was what we looked at. That is way before, and that is the appellate decision, or the appellate division already decided that. So it was great. I'm really happy that he acknowledged it. It was a good step in the right direction.
But Alina, there is the underlying decision from this very judge that many legal experts don't even know how it carries out in practice. Basically, it appears like this judge is taking away all of Donald Trump's ability to do business. So you're a member of this legal team. If this actually ends up being reality, what happens? Do you know?
Sure. It's called the corporate death penalty. That's what we call it anyway. Effectively, it's what the Attorney General wants. They want to say that President Trump, and not only President Trump, his children and the 850 plus people that work for him will be affected and not able to do. President Trump and the Trump family will not able to conduct business in New York, will have to be dissolved in the state of New York. For doing what? I don't know. They put together a compilation of their values, which then sophisticated banks came in, looked at, and did their own valuations of for loans that he frankly didn't need because his net worth is so high. But that is effectively what it means.
All right, so I'm sure that you're going to want to clear this up because the judge said the reason there's no jury trial is because nobody asked. And then now there are all these headlines that say that's because you didn't check the box to ask for a jury trial. So is that true?
No, that is not true. Thank you for saying that. So the judge, actually what he said, and it's tricky because if you don't understand the section, what he said was under Section 6312, there is no right to a jury trial. This is no box checking. And unfortunately, there's been people on the news misleading everyone, saying that there is a option to check a box and you get a jury. That is wrong, everyone. There is no option to check a box. They brought this under a consumer fraud statute. It has never been used in this way for a reason, because this judge who oversaw the special proceeding has given them everything they wanted effectively for years, and they wanted to keep it in this division as opposed to the commercial division where we would have had a normal judge. So no, everyone, I didn't forget to check a box.
There you go. Okay.
Sorry.
So clearing that one up, you're back in court today, and Donald Trump's going to be there as well.
Yes.
And we're expected to this is going to wrap up in December, so it's going to be a long road ahead.
Yes.
Alina, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Carly.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
Well, hopefully they don't have to wait until December or whatever they were saying for this to move forward, because it's all a bunch of nonsense. We're going to go right into the second part here. It's titled, Trump saying this case should be dismissed. This is not a case. It's a sham. It's a sham and it's a scam. That's what he said yesterday when he came out. I know Trump could rap, but I'm with it. I'm with it. It's a bunch of nonsense. Let's get it.
President Trump speaking now. Let's listen.
Is and will, and I hope you're impressed. We built a great company. But he's been given false information, misleading information, and corrupt information by a very corrupt and incompetent Attorney General, Letitia James. This woman is grossly incompetent. She ran on the basis, I will get Trump without knowing anything about me. So he's been given this information. It's now been proven to be false, such as Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, being worth $18 million, when in fact it's much closer to $1.5 billion. And I appreciate very much the officials of Palm Beach calling yesterday and writing and saying that she was very wrong. That's not the way you value the property. So she said it was $18 million. It's $1.5 billion. Likewise, we've just recently sold 2 properties for many times what they were worth, many times what they were worth in the financial statements. And the statements are actually much lower than the actual net worth. She knows that, but she's fraudulent. Because of the fraudulent numbers she's given, many of which, Mar-a-Lago is just one example. We have other examples that are almost as good, in some cases might even be better. This case should be dismissed. This is not a case. And she should probably be dismissed also because she's terrible and grossly incompetent, as I've said. But at a minimum, she should start looking for the murderers and the criminals, the violent criminals all over New York, do something about all of the illegal migrants pouring into our city and state, and not spend the next 6 months in a courthouse because she's been caught early. Her numbers are fraudulent. She's a fraud. Her numbers are fraudulent, and this case should be dismissed. And they ought to get on to violent crime and solving the problems of New York City and New York State. Thank you very much. Mr. President.
Well, President Trump calling it how it is. Letting her know. Moments right after the Court hearing. Come right out and tell everyone she's a fraud. She's grossly incompetent. Shouldn't be at her job. I love that. He comes all the way to town, being accused of nonsense, hears all their bullshit, and then walks out of the courtroom and lets everybody know that she's a fraud. He's like, I drove all the way here. I heard all the nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. Nobody thinks it means anything. She's an ugly piece of shit. I'm going back home. What a bunch of nonsense. And then he walks away and everybody's like chanting Trump. I don't know. What a bunch of nonsense to have to go through. He's a better person than me. I know that. It takes a lot of money to go through all that stuff. Thankfully, he's in a position where he can afford to fight things like that. If that was you or me, they would just kill us with fees. They would send us to court so many times we would run out of money, and then they would win by default. That's how most court cases work. Whoever has the most money wins. I mean, unless you're going criminal court, and then that's a whole different thing. But it's a bunch of nonsense. We all know it. They're not swaying us anyway. It's only the soft and stupid people that are getting hit by the gatekeeping. The people who won't wake up and listen to anybody else, they're just living in CNN world. That's the only useful tactic this is they're going to be on Twitter and in comment sections across the board talking about how Trump's a criminal. He's been indicted on 191 counts of idiocy and blah, 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 and whatever. Nobody else even cares. I feel like he could be guilty of all these charges, but everybody who's going to vote for Trump is still going to vote for Trump because these charges don't actually matter. It's a whole bunch of nothing. But the soft and stupid out there, they're just adding it to the list. 2 impeachments, 1 insurrection, 191 counts of nonsense. Like, okay, so you've convinced yourself not to vote for Trump. Good for you, idiot. Like, you're not saying anything. People who want to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump regardless. They would have to really pull out some skeletons out of the closet. And if he had real skeletons in the closet, they would have pulled him out already. They wouldn't be getting him on these stupid little peddly charges where all of them are being dismissed because of statute of limitations. It's over 7 years old. Most of this stuff is. They were saying they were pulling stuff from like 2011. It's 2023. Like, when would they even be able to go back? 2020 is 7. Would it be 7? No, 6. It'd be 2000. Oh my God, my math is terrible now. 2016, maybe? 4 is 10, 3. Yeah. 2016. So anything before that is automatically dismissed. So why bring it to the table? Why waste everybody's time? Especially if you can't sell that sauce to any of us. We're not buying it. We're not buying it. You can't convince us that he's a bad person because he lied about his penthouse size. We don't have penthouses. We don't care if it was this many feet or this many square feet. We don't care. That has nothing to do with being president. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And that's what I'm saying. He's a better guy than me. Because I'd be like, you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm sending somebody else. I'm not doing it. This is a bunch of nonsense. I don't know. Trump's the man. So we're going to move on to this next one. This is crazy sauce. 160 arrested in Ohio human trafficking bust. And they're saying it's teachers, it's CPS workers, it's all kinds of people that are well connected and have all kinds of resources and exclusivity to these individuals that they're trafficking and stuff like that. It's crazy. And this is probably happening everywhere, especially if it's happening in Podunk, Ohio. This is probably happening everywhere, and people should question these professionals around them, I think, a little bit more. Keep an eye on those around you. Let's get this started.
Taking you to Ohio now. This morning, 160 people are facing charges in Ohio accused of human trafficking. It's the latest in a series of law enforcement stings across the country. One just last week in Florida saw more than 200 arrests. Stephanie Haynes joins us live to tell us a little bit more about what we're learning about these suspects. And Stephanie, these suspects, it's chilling. They include educated, distinguished, high-ranking individuals. It's happening all around us for people in our everyday lives.
Marky, chilling indeed. I mean, these are teachers, these are coaches, nurses, retirees, people you and I would know in our communities, and it can really happen anywhere. And law enforcement say that this problem is so pervasive that even the most successful operations, like this one in Ohio or like one in Florida last week, doesn't even begin to put a dent in this problem. But it doesn't stop law enforcement from stepping up their game every single time to try to clamp down on human trafficking.
Your hands up.
This is one of 160 arrests made in Ohio over the past week in what law enforcement calls Operation Buyer's Remorse.
Hey!
How's it going, buddy? It's not just cops. Everybody that's in the fight, that's trying to help the survivors of human trafficking, is there on the ground, and every one of them is necessary.
In Polk County, Florida, more than 200 people were arrested last week in a similar undercover operation, including 35 who investigators say were living in the country illegally, and 2 alleged traffickers.
Sometimes we work an entire operation without being able to identify the human trafficker because the ladies are scared to death of them. So we think it's a big, big deal.
Former FBI agent and News Nation Law and Justice contributor Jennifer Koffendorfer says operations like this are becoming more and more frequent in order to try to clamp down on what she calls a crisis.
Now we are seeing the fruits of the labor of after COVID being over. These investigations are being brought.
She looks so rough.
Fruition now, I think, because of the porous border situation, where you have even more vulnerable people that are going to be susceptible and being trafficked. Unfortunately, you're going to see even more of a rise in these types of cases.
And one thing Jennifer points out there is that so many of these human trafficking cases are getting that much more attention. So that means that they are getting more and more resources. And as you saw with Sheriff Grady in Florida there, that, there were all these people standing behind him. Half of those people, even more, are social services workers who help in these sting operations to work with these potential victims to make sure that they get the help that they need and don't fall back into that human trafficking pattern. Adrienne.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
I'm glad they caught all those people and stuff, but why are they not providing a list? That stuff is public information. They should put a list up. They should be like, these are all the individuals we caught. This is, the ranking official that they were. They should tell everybody. It's one thing to catch them and arrest them and stuff, but should really call out, are these people working in government? Or where are they? Where are they working? And should we investigate those places to see if there's other people that are a part of the human trafficking ring? It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't know how people could do that. I don't know how people could sell another person. It's been going on for hundreds of years, but I just don't understand it. I couldn't do it. I mean, you ever watch a friend's dog or anything like that, and then it's time for them to go home, and the whole time you had them, you couldn't stand it, but then when you send them home, then you miss them? How could you be dealing with humans in that kind of way and then sell them and just be totally clear mentally and sleep fine at night? I don't know how you could be that way. Those people should be shot. The punishment for human trafficking and being a pedophile and all that stuff should be to be buried alive. I don't know. It's not good. It shouldn't be good. I know that. Jail time's not enough. Jail time is not enough for those kind of people. 0 sociopaths. Yeah, they have to be. They got to be in that line of work. They got to be totally messed up. They said 30 of them of the 160 were border crossers. People aren't even supposed to be here. I wonder if those are coyotes and stuff like that, like cartel. If they came through the border and they, brought their, I don't know what you want to call them, the humans they were trafficking with them across the border, and then just continued on to be point B. Point A stays on southern border. Point B is somewhere in the country, trafficking humans back and forth, get them into the country, and then establish a network. I don't know. I think they should call them out. They should list names and say where they were working. Just flip it through chat really quick before we move forward. We should send them to the blue and yellow country. Something. Do something. Not put them in jail and pay for them to eat and make buddies in jail. Low Tech, how many are Disney workers? Yeah, Disney World is like one of the top places in our country where human trafficking happens. All amusement parks are hot spots, but Disney World, because of its size, is a huge, major hot spot for human trafficking. Donald, groomers without borders. Yeah, it's no good. We need more. We gotta make punches in the face great again. That's where we gotta start. We gotta start. On the surface, a punch in the face will straighten out most of the problems that we have going on here. But for other people who are hurting kids, trafficking humans, committing heinous acts against women, things like that, those kind of individuals, I just don't think there's enough jail time for them. Yeah, you could give them 300 years, but then we gotta still pay for them to be here. But I think if we went back to public execution and stuff like that, and I don't know that that's the answer, but I know that it would be almost as effective as a punch in the face. If you turned on your TV and, oh, here we go, we got Pedo Joe's here, and he's going to be decapitated before the whole world just so everyone knows that you don't commit crimes like that, and you just watched it happen, you'd probably make some decisions to not be like that person. And I don't know, we used to do stuff like that in primitive ages back in, medieval times and stuff like that. There must be a reason why we did away with it. I can't think of one at this time, though, because if you're hurting kids, you're hurting women, you're doing bad stuff like that, you're trafficking humans, there's no rehabilitation for you. You're not going to be rehabilitated. It comes in the form of a 9mm. Like, I don't know. And again, I got to give this disclaimer all the time. I don't want bad things to happen to people. I don't want people to do bad things. But I don't think that there's punishment in this world that levels with the crimes in that sense. People who are doing crimes like that, there's not enough punishment where you could survive. I just don't believe so. And if they need a good neck stretching, they need something. They need something. People like that don't change. They don't change. And they might even want to change, which is so heartbreaking about the situation, is they probably, a lot of them can't even stand themselves. And they want to change, but they can't. They were broken somewhere into development and became that way, and they're not changing. They're just stuck that way. And so, I mean, maybe we should do them a favor and put them onto the next world. Put them on the other side of the veil. I don't know. I just wish stuff like that wasn't really happening in this world, especially in our country, in Ohio. You know that stuff's happening in LA, it's happening in New York, it's happening in Texas, it's happening in Florida, it's happening in these big states with big communities. If it's happening in Ohio, like, because there ain't nothing going on in Ohio, and it wasn't even Cleveland or anything like that. Hell, that makes me wonder, like, is there human trafficking going on where I live? Where I live, I don't even think there's a whole 100 people in this area that I live in right now. It's not even considered a city where I live. And I wonder, is it going on here? If it's going on in Ohio, it definitely could be. And that scares the shit out of me. Because of what I would do if I found out somebody I could reach was doing something like that. I am scared of what I would do to that individual if I could get to them. Because we have no room on this planet for people like that. Not at all. Thank you so much, Cricket Kiss, for the $10 donation. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support. Disney Tea Time with Princess Longbeard and Queen. Big package. Meh. Not going, kiddos. Yeah, I've been to Disney World 3 or 4 times. I don't know why. My mom or whoever took me, I was a little baby. Don't take babies to Disney World. They can't remember. And then you hold it over their head their whole life. Yeah, remember that one time I took you to Disney World when you were 16 months old, you ungrateful piece of shit? No, I don't remember. I don't remember nothing. Well, now you can't take your kids at all because chances are you'll hand them over to a Disney princess that has a wiener and they'll just walk away with your kid. And if you try to stop them, you're a bad person. Like, there's no place for kids at this point. There's no place. We need a conservative Disney World. We need something like that. where you go there and you learn gun safety or something. You pledge allegiance to the flag. You pet some eagles. I don't know. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. That's just my 2 cents. Anyways, we're going to move on to this next video. It's titled Self-Driving Trucks in Testing Phase to Hit Roads in 2024. Well, trying to bring on these autonomous big rigs right after UPS and all those people just got their deal. They were all on strike and stuff. Now they're getting replaced by autonomy. No, not autonomy. Autonomous vehicles. All right, let's get this started.
All right, it's Truck Week here at News Nation. I feel like it's like
Bring it
WWE.
on.
No. What that means is we're doing something no other network has done, highlighting the drivers who are the heartbeat of our supply chain.
Yeah, we couldn't do anything without you guys. This morning, autonomous technology could be the answer that our nation's struggling trucking industry has been looking for.
Kodiak Robotics is a company currently testing self-driving 18-wheelers on the road. Somebody still sits in the driver's seat just close enough to grab the wheel in case of an emergency. And the founder and CEO of Kodiak Robotics, Don Burnett, is here with us. Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for asking.
We're good. We're glad that you're in the business of all this science, and you're going to break it down for us. How soon might we see trucks without drivers? And I think just like answer the burning question. When we do see trucks without drivers, will that put all human drivers out of work?
Well, what most people don't realize is that our technology is actually out on the roads every day already. We do have a safety driver behind the wheel monitoring our system, but we have a fleet of 34 trucks, and our trucks are out driving 24/7, moving goods all across the southern United States, I-10, I-20, I-40, every state from Arizona all the way to Georgia. And next year, 2024, we're going to actually pull the driver for the first time and start to do driverless operations. And
wow,
no, drivers are not going to be out of work overnight. One thing people don't realize is that this technology is going to take decades to roll out. It's going to be a slow and gradual rollout. There's already a massive shortage of long-haul drivers, and this technology is going to help backfill that demand and add resiliency to our supply chain.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the progress. This is a big feat for you and your company. So as you mentioned, you currently drive across the southern part of the United States. Once you can expand into the rest of the country, are there any federal regulations that'll restrict where you can and can't drive in the U.S.?
Well, there's no federal regulations today, but currently there's a patchwork of state regulations. And in 23 states in the United States, it is legal to have driverless operations today. So we can actually go driverless today. We are working at the federal level to pass legislation that will actually provide blanket approval for this technology countrywide. But currently it's a state-by-state process, and so we work with each state individually.
You know, I wanted to ask about your driver sensor pods and if they work like human drivers' line of sight. But I have to ask, when did you found the company? Because I think there would be a lot of people who are looking at the screen and thinking, this dude's running a robotics company?
Yeah, so I actually started Kodiak back in 2018, but I've been working in the self-driving technology for over 15 years. Started in academia, I was a researcher, and then Google, the Waymo project, and many other companies leading up to all the technological advances in AI and other things that you're seeing on the road today with the founding of Kodiak.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, congratulations on all your success for sure.
Yeah, I know you were just awarded a contract with the Department of Defense. So again, congrats, and we're happy to highlight you on our Truck Week here on Morning in America and on News Nation. Don Burnett, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
So, I mean, they said all the obvious stuff, right? Autonomous vehicle and all that stuff. But why at the end did they slide in there that he just got a contract with Secretary of Defense? What does self-driving freight trucks have to do with the defense of the country? Like contracts with whatever. I don't think it's Secretary of Defense. I don't know what they said. But what does that have to do with military and weapons? We're going to have autonomous tanks? We probably already have autonomous tanks. Why wouldn't we? That seems like that'd be an easy yes. That was weird. That was weird they kind of slid that in at the, oh, I understand that you got a new contract with the government and the Defense Department. He's like, yeah, anyways. Like, no, that's the story. That little nugget right there, that's the story. We already know they're trying to make self-driving vehicles and all that crap. All the Teslas do it and stuff. I don't think... if we need the cars to drive for us because we're too shit of drivers, we just shouldn't have cars. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Because you can't blame the car. You get in a car accident while the car was driving itself. It's still your fault. You're still technically operating the vehicle because you're the person that put it in autopilot. These freight, this could have big blowback. You get run over by a semi that isn't stopping, right? You get hit by a semi, the driver stops. The driver takes his foot off the gas, puts the foot on the brake, comes to a stop, puts it in park if possible, right? If the truck's driving itself and it hits you and doesn't stop and just continues barreling you down the road, that's going to be a problem. If it's destroying product and stuff that the freight is carrying, that's going to be a problem. What if you're carrying fuel and stuff like that and something terrible happens? That's going to be a problem. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like a bunch of nonsense to me. It's weird that we're living in a time where people feel like they're not making enough money to live. And at the same time, we're eliminating jobs with robots and AI. There's going to be a breaking point. There's going to be a breaking point where we don't have enough human jobs, and the human jobs we do have don't pay enough. That's going to make crime escalate. That's the first thing. Crime, a big part of crime is symptoms of people not having enough. Now, whether that's true or their opinion kind of doesn't matter. They feel they don't have enough, and so they steal from you, or they walk all over other people and stuff because they don't feel like they have what they need. If you're eliminating jobs and you're eliminating good paying jobs on top of that, you're just asking for more crime, more people to be upset, more people to be hurt, more people that are not self-sustaining, and then they just come steal from you and create more problems. It's no good. It's no good. Thank you so much, Get Some J, for the $5 donation on Rumble. I appreciate you, Get Some J. You're awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Reading through the chat really quick. We have one more to go after this. This next one's about Matt Gaetz and the whole Speaker of the House thing. I'm not sure what's going on with this yet. They were just voting because there is a live going on. But these House debates tend to go on forever. Like, it could be going on until it's dark outside, and they'll never get anything done, which is why a lot of times I don't cover this crap. I'm sitting here watching it. They were just taking a vote to table the whole deal on to vote whether McCarthy's going to stay or be pulled from the chair. They were voting on tabling it. I don't know what exactly happened, though, because we went on to covering other things. But at this point in time, I'm sure not a whole lot's going on. So we're going to keep moving forward, and I'll keep monitoring this and whatnot. But the next video has to do with that whole situation and what they're doing today. Just reading through the chat really quick. Jeb McCarthy spends time in Bohemian Grove, I hear. I wouldn't doubt that at all. Wouldn't doubt that at all. Cricket Kiss DC is the asshole of the world at this moment. Which tires has the most sprinkles on at this point? What? I don't know what you're saying, but I agree with it. I agree with it. Sam, just another way for them to take our freedom. Absolutely. Absolutely. They want us all to have self-driving cars. They want us to all live in buildings that we work in and shop in, so we don't ever have to leave the building itself. We're going to be like little batteries. We'll just be in these big buildings where we work and eat and sleep and shop, and when we leave, we'll call an Uber that's driving itself, and it will only take us someplace on the map where we can plant a designation. We won't be able to tell them to take us wherever we want. We'll only be able to go where we're allowed to go. That's how they're building society around us. It's no good. The Rosa and the border crossers to lower wages. Yeah, because they'll work for 50 cents and it's better than whatever they had where they came from. It's true. That's what the Democrats are always talking about. They come out and say it, and they don't realize what they're saying, but they probably do. But it's like they're talking about slavery. That's what it's like. Like they want it. They want them to come here to work for cheap labor, and it's good for everyone. And it's, I don't know. I saw a video with Nancy Pelosi talking about it, and she literally sounded like a slave owner. And she was like all giddy about the border crossers and stuff. And it was like, you're a bad person. You're a bad person for a lot of reasons. But this right here, this is a glowing reason. Snooks, tabling means it can now go forward to vote to oust him. See, why would they name it that? When they said they're tabling something, it sounds like they're going to put it off till another day. Like a rain check. Either way. We'll see. They're not voting yet. Well, Matt Gaetz is speaking. Let's hear what he's saying.
Would plunge the House and the country into chaos. Chaos is Speaker McCarthy. Chaos is somebody who we cannot trust with their word. The one thing that the White House, House Democrats, and many of us on the conservative side of the Republican caucus would argue is that the thing we have in common, Kevin McCarthy said something to all of us at one point or another that he didn't really mean and never intended to live up to. I don't think voting against Kevin McCarthy is chaos. I think $33 trillion in debt is chaos. I think that facing a $2.2 trillion annual deficit is chaos. I think that not passing single subject spending bills is chaos. I think the fact that we have been governed in this country since the mid-90s by continuing resolution and omnibus is chaos. And the way to liberate ourselves from that is a series of reforms to this body that I would hope would outlast Speaker McCarthy's time here, would outlast my time here, and would outlast either of our majorities. Reforms that I have heard some of the most conservative members of this body fight for, and some of the reforms that we've been battling for that I've even heard those in the Democrat caucus say would be worthy and helpful to the House, like open amendments, like understanding what the budget is. We have been out of compliance with budget laws for most of my life, most of many of your lives. And by the way, if we did those things, if we had single subject bills, if we had an understanding on the top line, if we had open amendments, if we had trust and honesty and understanding, there would be times when my conservative colleagues and I would lose, might be a few times when we'd win. There'd be times that we would form partnerships that might otherwise not be really predictable in the American body politic, but the American people would see us legislating. These last few days, we've suspended the momentum that we had established the week earlier, where we were bringing bills to the floor, voting on them, staying late at night, working hard. That's what the American people expect. It's something Speaker McCarthy hasn't delivered, and that's why I've moved to vacate the chair. I reserve.
Gentleman's time is reserved. Gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to my very good friend, Mr. Emmer from Minnesota.
Gentleman from Minnesota, Mr. Emmer.
Well, anyways, they're going to sit there and sound real cute and probably come up with a whole bunch of nothing. So instead of watching that, we're going to see why they're talking about all this stuff in this very next video that we have here. This is the last video of the live. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. It's titled Matt Gaetz Triggers Vote to Oust House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, which is obviously what they're doing right now, or I guess, whatever they call that. Full feathering up, you know, like they're peacocking. They're peacocking up. Not really doing anything. That's all they do. That's all Congress does. That's all politicians. That's all they do. They just walk around peacocking all day. It's super annoying. Let's get it started.
Overnight, a bitter Republican rivalry rising from the House floor to the history books.
Resolved that the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared to be vacant.
With a few simple sentences, Florida Republican Matt Gaetz forcing a vote in the next 48 hours on whether House Speaker Kevin McCarthy will remain in power.
Kevin McCarthy likes to pretend that he makes coalition with conservatives, but all he really does is break his word with conservatives.
Gaetz accusing the speaker of breaking his promises to Republicans by working with Democrats to delay a government shutdown this weekend, and of making a secret side deal on Ukraine funding, which he opposes. McCarthy on Monday denying any such deal exists and urging Gaetz and his allies not to act against him.
I do not think it's good for the House. I do not think it's good for this institution. I do not think this is good for the country.
Afterwards, McCarthy projecting confidence on social media, posting simply, "Bring it on." And while the vast majority of House Republicans say they support McCarthy,
I am supporting Kevin McCarthy, as I have throughout, and will continue to do so.
The House's narrow margins, which contributed to the historic 15 votes it took to elect McCarthy Speaker,
that was easy, huh?
also mean Democrats will have a significant voice in whether McCarthy maintains his gavel. Democratic leaders saying they've made no decisions yet on how they'll vote.
This is a lose-lose proposition, and Democrats are going to remain firm that we are here to do the work the people sent us here to do.
So what happens now? Well, there's one challenge for Gaetz and his allies. If not McCarthy, who? There is still no clear backup candidate who could get the votes necessary to become the next speaker if McCarthy is voted out. The House has to schedule that vote in the next 48 hours. Hoda?
All right, Garrett Hakeforth there at the Capitol. Garrett, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific.
Blah, blah. So anyways, that's why they're doing the thing. Whatever it is they're doing. I see that Fox is live with Trump in court right now. It's crazy how much these officers get yelled at for talking. Like, they cannot help themselves. They all get around each other and they all just start talking, and then somebody comes out of the magistrate office or somewhere and like, hey, shut the hell up. Gotta give them to quiet down. I think they're just all excited that Trump's in the courthouse. And I'm still monitoring this whole Speaker McCarthy thing. They're not voting yet. I don't think we're going to see that within the time of this live. It is what it is. I'm just trying to keep up to date on everything, and keep you guys up to date. I've already gathered the news, and I'm still gathering more. You know how it is. There's always new news. Just read through the chat really quick. That is all of the coffee I had for you hooligans today. I'm going to post a Linktree link in all of the chats for you guys to take advantage of. All the donation links are there if you would like to donate to the live and support what we do here. Also, we have all the links to join membership programs if you would like to join a membership program for a program or a platform that you hang out on the most. It's a great way to support and also get some benefits out of it. A lot of times you'll get a badge or you'll get access to special emojis and things like that. Every platform is different, so make sure you read about it. You'll also have access to both the merch stores. One is mainly clothing and coffee mugs. The other one is hats, patches, beanies, all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely check them both out. Find something you dig. We got tons of designs, and we got new designs coming out. Just waiting on OG to write me back. We'll get that stuff put together. I'm trying to think. Oh, go join Gilded. Be a part of Gilded. Gilded is free. It's the best way to receive notifications for when and where we go live. All the hooligans are there 24/7, keeping the conversation going. Especially if something breaking happens, it's a great place to be because you can see everybody gather information all at once and then kind of brainstorm on what's happening. It's a lot better than being on your own, I'll tell you that. Because you only have your own opinion and perception of how things are going. And so it's always good to be in Gilded and get a little bit of everybody's opinion there, and it might change your point of view on things, and it's good to be open-minded and stuff. But if you're an introvert, we got a news board there to keep you up to date with everything going on around the world, so definitely go join Gilded. You can access it by downloading the app on your phone, or you can also access it on your desktop. It's kind of 50-50. A lot of people use it from their desktop, and they like it that way. I use it from my phone. I get lost when I get on the computer. I don't know. 'Tis what it is, and if you're feeling real spicy, go check out jeffmaclive.com. You can get a free week, no strings attached, at the very top of the link tree. Go join us over on the website. See all the great things we're doing over there. I think our live on the website is the best across the board. I think it is the best across the board. Our chat, you can actually ping names. People complain about that on Rumble because there's no predictive text for usernames and stuff. You have to type it all out by hand. But on YouTube, if you start typing, it'll try and guess who you're talking to. We have that on our chat. We have the ability to upload GIFs or GIFs or whatever they are. And we have the ability to upload memes and all kinds of cool stuff like that. And our chat is really fun over on the website. It's one of the best ones out there, if not the best, on all the platforms we go live on. So definitely check it out. It's also, the live stream is the clearest on the website. So just for the live stream itself, not paying attention to the social media that we have, not paying attention to the advanced messaging system we have where we can video chat and call and group chat and group video call each other and upload all forms of media that's ever been known to man, just the live stream area is better than everywhere else. So go give it a try, give it a chance. Even if you've already been there before, you should go check it out because I'm constantly making improvements. And if you guys think I could be doing a better job, because people love telling other people what to do, I welcome you to go and fill out the surveys I have on the contact page. I think there's survey links in the bottom of the description on all the platforms. But if you can't find it, just go to the contact page on jeffmaclive.com, scroll all the way down to the bottom. You'll see a survey for live streaming and a survey for the website. The one says Coffee with Hooligans, but if you watch us play the game, or if we're covering live streams and stuff like that, like Trump rallies and whatnot, not necessarily Coffee with Hooligans, you can use that Coffee with Hooligans form to give me feedback on how I do the live and what I could do to make it better. And we have another form to do the same on the website. That way you guys can give me feedback. I can make changes that will actually be improvements on the live as well as the website. I'm only one person. I can make it all how I like it, but that doesn't mean that you guys are going to want to watch or participate on the website. So you got to give me feedback. I really care, and I want to provide good stuff to all of you guys. So go fill out the survey. Let me know how you really feel. And you can be anonymous. So if you want to talk bad to me, you can go ahead and do that too. I fully expect that. So, Either way, hooligans, that's all the coffee I have for you guys today. I dropped the links for you guys, so you know what time it is. All right, hooligans, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we did the thing. There we go. Thought I broke the beats. Thought I broke them. I did not. I'm trying to think. Oh, and I want to remind you guys, if you spot Old Man Walter anywhere, whether you're at Walmart, you're at the beach, wherever you may be, if you happen to capture Old Man Walter, we have a place on Gilded, and I think on the website. If not, I'm going to make it right now. It's like a channel where you can paste or post your photo or video if you happen to capture Old Man Walter in some sort of humorous way. Let me see if I can pull up the one that I found to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. But I want to encourage everyone to go and upload and give us content about this so we could show it off on Fridays. It's called Where's Walter? I gotta take a gander to make sure there's nothing too spicy here. I can't show it while YouTube's watching. All right, let me get KJP's face off the screen. My goodness, holy! Let's just get that out of there. Okay, so as you can see, I spotted Old Man Walter at Walmart, and I showed you guys last Friday or the Friday before. But if you happen to spot Old Man Walter, come down into Gilded, scroll to the bottom of all the chats we got. This is all the good stuff we got going on. Hold up. Huh. 'Tis me. Bam, you just got approved. Welcome to Gilded. See, that's how easy it is. Go ahead and go apply. But yeah, if you spot Old Man Walter, I'm not gonna show you everything because we'll show you on Friday. But that's where I want you to post it. I'm gonna make the same exact thing on the website. I'm gonna make a group chat. If you spot Old Man Walter, contribute to it. So then on Fridays we can show off all our funny pictures of Old Man Walter and where we spotted him. It's like catching Pokemon. We're just doing it for fun. So participate so we have fun things to do. Read through the chat really quick. Make sure you guys are good to go. And then we are wrapping this up. We will be live at 6 p.m. Eastern time with some gaming just to have fun for a couple hours and forget the troubles around us. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can watch on Kick. You can also watch on jeffmaclive.com, or you can find Jeff Mac Gaming on YouTube if you would like to follow that channel. Yeah. And then Coffee with Hooligans will be tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I'll read through the chat really quick. And we're going to wrap this up. Once again, I know lots of reminders. My brain is 90 miles an hour right now. We are live for the first time in 2 years on D Live. If you guys like to watch on D Live, we will be live there all week and probably from here on out unless something bad happens. So we are back there. If you'd like to watch on D Live, you can find us there every time we're live. We'll see about playing the game on D Live. That's not really how I built that channel, although it's been so long since we've been there. We'll see. We'll see about the game on D Live. We'll see. For now, though, it's just the news. Let's see. Just reading through the chats. I think we're good to go. I think we're good to go. Yeah, I appreciate you, Raja. All right, hooligans, that is that. That's all the coffee I had. We've done all the checkups, all the reminders, all the everything that I can think of. Of course, I'll end the live and then I'll remember 5 or 10 more things that I should have said, but that's okay. Because we'll be live later and we'll be live again tomorrow. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I really appreciate all of you hooligans, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.